10 years ago, we left her behind. 11,000 meters down. No light, no air, no hope. She should have died, but now she's calling me through steel, through sonar, through the voices of my crew, whispering my name in the dark. One by one, they're disappearing. We found their suits, still sealed, empty, and now she wants me to come back, not to save her, to stay. I heard her voice again last night, not in a dream, not in a memory. It came through the comms feed, 11,000 meters below the surface. She said my name, just once. Michael. No static, no distortion, just her voice, like she was standing right behind me, whispering. But that's impossible. Ilara's been dead for 10 years. We lost her in the trench, deepest part of the ocean, where light and life both go to die. It was supposed to be a routine descent, just another systems test. But something went wrong. The power cut out. Pressure alarms went haywire. Then she was gone. No signal, no trace, just silence. The kind that sinks into your bones and never lets go. They called it a malfunction, a tragic accident. One of those things that happen in extreme environments. But we knew better. We all did. We were experimenting with things we didn't fully understand. Project Siren was more than just deep-sea monitoring. It was about adaptation, evolution, about turning a human body into something that could survive in places we were never meant to go. And Ilara, she volunteered. She believed in the science, believed in pushing the limits, believed in me. I still remember her last words before the dive. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "If it works, I'll be able to breathe where no one else can." Then she smiled, and she was gone. We never found her body, never even tried, really. The company shut down the outpost a week later, scrubbed the records, paid us off, swore us to silence, and I stayed silent for 10 years. But 2 nights ago, something changed. A crew was sent to reactivate parts of the Mariana outpost. Just maintenance, structural checks, routine. But one of the techs disappeared. The report says his suit was found floating inside the equipment bay, sealed, untorn, no breach, no signs of struggle, just empty, like something had reached inside and taken him from the inside out. Then the audio logs came in. Garbled at first, then clearer. One of the engineers was listening to the sonar recordings in post, and there it was, buried in the frequencies, like a whisper riding a wave. Michael, my name, again. That's why they called me back. Why I'm here. I told myself I'd never return. I moved halfway across the world, changed careers, tried to forget. But when someone speaks your name from the bottom of the ocean, you listen. I took the midnight flight, touched down at the launch site this morning. Everything's changed, but the smell is the same. That cold, sterile, metallic tang, recycled air, and salt. There are only 4 of us going down this time. The skeleton crew, engineers, operators, and me. They don't know what really happened 10 years ago. They don't know about Ilara. But I do, and the closer we get to the trench, the louder that name echoes in my head. They ran diagnostics before we left. Said the signal was residual sonar distortion. That's the term they used, like it was nothing. But I know what I heard. I know her voice. You don't forget the voice of someone you love, especially when they died calling your name. I keep telling myself it's a trick, a glitch. Maybe I'm going mad. Maybe the guilt's finally catching up to me. But that doesn't explain the suit, or the missing man, or the new logs from this morning, because now it's not just my name. She's saying others. Lena, Harris, Devin, the crew. She's calling them now too, and none of them have ever met her. That night before our descent, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bunk staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between sonar pings. At 2:13 a.m., the speakers crackled. Faint static at first, then the voice again. Softer this time, like a lullaby from the dark. "Michael, are you there?" I didn't answer. I didn't move. Then she said something else. "Come down, it's beautiful here." Just like we imagined. I nearly vomited, because those were Alara's words from our last conversation before the dive. She said the trench would be quiet, peaceful, beautiful. No one else knew she said that, not even the project leads. I shut the feed, pulled the plug, took the whole console offline, but the voice kept coming. No speaker, no wire, just her, whispering through the steel walls like the pressure itself was carrying her words. That's when I knew. She wasn't just a memory, she was waiting, and now I'm going back. Tomorrow we dive, straight down into the same black void where we lost her. And maybe if she's still down there, maybe I'll see her again. Maybe she's alive, or maybe something else is using her voice. Either way, I'll know soon. She called me from the deep, and she knew my name. They never wanted us to know what really happened. Not just with Alara, with all of it. Project Siren didn't start as a rescue mission. It was never about exploration or mapping the ocean floor. That was the cover, the facade they gave to the public, to the investors, to the families of the people who never came back. But we knew the truth. Those of us who were there in the beginning, we knew what we were building. They called it bioadaptive sensory integration. In simpler terms, a human interface system designed to survive where no machine could, by becoming part of the environment. We weren't trying to explore the deep. We were trying to merge with it. Siren wasn't a tool, it was an evolution. And Alara, she wasn't a test subject. She was the prototype. I still remember the briefing. The first time they told us what we'd be doing, it wasn't in a lab. It wasn't in a boardroom. It was in the pressure chamber. We were locked inside, breathing recycled air, while a doctor with a clipboard read us a speech about the next stage of human resilience, about modifying the lungs to extract trace oxygen molecules from supercompressed water, about integrating sonar systems directly into the inner ear, about abandoning speech, sight, and breath for something deeper, something primal, something that belonged to the trench. And when the doctor finished, she looked at Alara, smiled, said, "You're going to change everything." Alara didn't smile back. She just nodded, calm, ready. She was always the strongest of us. I watched them inject the serum, 6 syringes, one after another. The mixture was black, like ink or blood under 10 tons of pressure. She didn't flinch. The changes started fast. Her body temperature dropped. Heart rate slowed, but she was still conscious. Still Alara. For the first week, everything seemed normal. But then the dreams began. She told me they weren't nightmares, at least not at first. They were sensations. Visions of places no camera had ever captured, structures too symmetrical to be natural, sounds too rhythmic to be random, and voices, always the voices. She said they whispered in pulses, patterns, like whale song, but faster, sharper, calling her by name, inviting her deeper. She started writing them down, filling page after page with symbols, drawings, waveforms that didn't match anything in our database. The higher-ups told us it was stress, side effects, auditory hallucinations brought on by sensory recalibration, but I knew better. I saw the way she moved, the way she began to react to sounds the rest of us couldn't hear, the way she paused mid-sentence, head tilted as if someone was speaking just below the threshold of our reality. She wasn't just adapting to the deep, she was syncing with it. 10 days later, she requested a solo descent, said she needed to be closer to the source, said she could hear them more clearly when she was near the trench wall. No one approved it officially, but no one stopped her either. She suited up, took the prototype dive suit, her design, said she'd be back before the next sonar sweep. I was at the control station when she disappeared. The feed went black. No warning, no impact, no alarms. Just static, then silence. And the strange part? The pressure sensors didn't detect a breach. Her vitals were green right up until the moment the line went dead. It was like she just blinked out of existence. The retrieval crew refused to go down. Some claimed they felt sick just standing near the access hatch. Others said they heard whispering through the comms, like something was moving in the water below. Management called it a tragedy, blamed equipment failure, shut down the outpost within 48 hours. I was the last one to leave. But before I boarded the evac shuttle, I went back to her quarters. The walls were covered in symbols, dozens of them, scratched into the steel with her fingernails. Some were just grooves, others were so deep they tore through the paneling. And in the center of the floor, she'd written a single sentence over and over again. "I can breathe down there." They locked those files away, buried them beneath layers of corporate secrecy and non-disclosure agreements. Anyone who asked questions disappeared into other departments or off the grid completely. But now, someone's opened them again. Because before our dive tomorrow, I got access to a restricted drive. Don't ask how. Let's just say some of us still have back doors. Inside, I found a video, time-stamped 2 hours before her final descent. Ilara is sitting in the medbay, alone. She looks directly into the camera. No emotion on her face, no fear, just stillness. Like she's already underwater. She holds up a syringe, filled with that same black serum, and she says, "This is the final dose, the one they said not to take." Then she injects it straight into her spine. Her body convulses, her eyes go wide, and then she smiles. Not a happy smile, not a human one. A slow, widening grin, like something inside her finally woke up. She leans forward, presses her hand against the camera lens, and whispers, "I'm ready to meet them." The feed ends there. So now I know. She didn't die. She chose to go. She chose them. And the voice I heard last night, it wasn't an echo. It wasn't a memory. It was her. She's still down there, waiting, calling. And now she's not just saying my name, she's learning new ones. The descent began at 400 hours, 4 of us. 1 submersible, 30 tons of reinforced steel and sonar tech, headed straight for the bottom of the world. I've made this dive before. Back when Mariana Outpost still had lights, personnel, protocols. Back when we believed we had control down here. Back when Ilara still... No time for that now. This dive wasn't like the others. It wasn't routine. It wasn't scientific. It felt like a funeral procession. We passed the thermocline. The world above vanished. No more sunlight. No more sound. Except for the hum of our own breathing and the slow rhythmic pings of the sonar. Depth, 5,000 meters. Then 7,000. Then 10,000. We were close. Devin was the first to speak. He was the youngest on the team, barely 30, always nervous, always trying to crack a joke when things got too quiet. He said, "Feels like we're falling into something's mouth." No one laughed. Then Lena, the systems engineer, asked why the sonar wasn't mapping the trench wall anymore. Said the signal was acting weird, like something was absorbing the pings instead of bouncing them back. That's when Harris, the operator, checked the comms log. There was a new entry, time-stamped 1 minute ago. Playback, a whisper, one word. "Lena." She froze, turned to me. "I didn't say anything," I told her. She nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the waveform still vibrating on the monitor. Then another whisper came through. "Devin." This time Harris shut it down, cut the channel completely. He looked at me like he already knew what I wasn't saying. This wasn't sonar interference. This was personal. We reached the docking point. The remains of Mariana Outpost loomed ahead like a carcass in the dark. Twisted steel, broken corridors, dead lights. We docked manually. The auto sequence was unresponsive, typical. The pressure doors groaned as we entered the main chamber. Everything smelled of rust and salt and something else. Something sour like meat left too long in brine. Lena activated the backup lights. Pale blue glow filled the corridor. Just enough to make out the symbols. They were scratched into the walls. Dozens of them, hundreds. Same as the ones I saw in Ilara's room. Same shapes, same patterns. Except now they were fresh, etched into the metal like someone had just been here. Like she was still writing. We split into pairs, standard procedure. Harris and Devin took the reactor wing. Lena and I headed for the central lab. It didn't take long before the screaming started. Harris's voice came through the comms, panicked, raw. "She's here! Jesus Christ, she's here!" Then static. We ran back. Devin was gone. His suit lay crumpled in the middle of the hallway, still zipped, still sealed, empty. No blood, no breach, just fog on the inside of the visor, like someone had been breathing, then vanished. Lena was shaking. "I don't understand," she kept whispering. "This isn't possible. This isn't..." Then her headset flared to life. Ilara's voice, whispering. Lena. Soft, loving, hungry. Lena ripped the headset off, threw it to the floor. She started crying, hyperventilating. I pulled her away. Back to the sub, back to air. But it didn't help. She kept whispering to herself. "She knows my name. She knows my name." We tried to contact the surface. Nothing. No signal, no return ping, like the trench had swallowed everything above us. Harris was silent. He sat in the corner of the sub, staring at his boots, muttering something under his breath. I leaned in. He was repeating coordinates, over and over. When I asked him what it meant, he said, "That's where she took him." I asked how he knew. He looked up, eyes wide. "She told me." Then the lights went out. Emergency backup kicked in. We were back in the dark. Then the monitors flickered. Camera feeds from the outer corridor started blinking on one by one, and we saw her, Ilara, or what was left of her, crawling across the ceiling. Not swimming, not walking, crawling like a spider, silent, smooth, upside down. Her limbs were longer than I remembered, joints bending at the wrong angles, skin pale and stretched, hair floating like kelp in still water. But it was her face that froze me. She was smiling, that same smile from the injection video, wide, knowing, inhuman. She looked directly at the camera and said, "Michael." Lena screamed. Harris vomited. I just stood there. It was like she had reached through the screen and wrapped her voice around my throat. Then the feed cut again, all black, no sound, just a single word blinking on the central monitor. "Come!" We ran, not to escape, to find answers. We made our way to the core lab, the place where it all began. The walls were covered in those same symbols, only now they were pulsing, dim bioluminescent glow, like veins. And in the center of the room was the tank, the one Ilara used for her final tests. It was still full, still operational, still occupied. A shape floated inside, not quite human, too long, too still. Then its eyes opened, and all I heard was her voice in my mind. No speakers, no sound waves, just thoughts, pure and sharp and deep as the trench itself. "You left me, but I remember you. Come back." We were trapped. The sub wouldn't respond. The emergency systems were dead. The override switch was fused into place, like it had melted from the inside. The temperature was rising, slowly at first, then steadily. Beads of sweat formed on my brow. The walls began to sweat too. Condensation building like the chamber itself was breathing harder, heavier. Lena was still unconscious. I checked her vitals. Faint pulse, shallow breath. Still alive, but barely. I needed time. I needed options. But the trench doesn't give you either. It just waits and pulses. I moved to the hatch and opened it manually. Outside, the corridors were different now. They weren't just pulsing, they were singing. A low hum echoed through the steel, through the water, through my chest cavity. Every surface vibrated with her voice, Ilara's voice, layered over itself in impossible harmonies. I stepped into it. The hum became a word. Michael. Always my name. Soft, longing, forgiving, and something else now. Decide. I followed the corridor toward the core. The light was blue now, deep, bioluminescent, like moonlight filtered through blood. As I passed each panel, it lit up with her memories, moving images, Not recordings, not projections, memories. Our first dive together, laughing inside our suits. The night she confessed she didn't believe in God, but did believe in the ocean, because the ocean never lied. Her face just before the injection, steady, brave, and then a memory I'd never seen. Her in the tank, alone, injected, skin splitting in slow motion, bones elongating, gills forming behind her ears, eyes going wide with light, her mouth open to scream. But all that came out was a melody, the birth of a siren. Then the memories faded, and the walls parted. The core chamber opened before me. She stood at the center, no longer crawling, no longer watching from afar. Full form, tall, pale, serene. Her eyes glowed like drowned stars. Her body shimmered with a fluidity that defied gravity. Part woman, part deep-sea organism, fused into something ancient and elegant and terrifying. But she smiled. "You came back." I stepped forward. "I had to. Why?" Her voice wasn't in my ears anymore. It was in me, vibrating through the marrow of my bones. "Because I need to end this," I said. She tilted her head, sad, curious. "You still think this is wrong? You're not Alara. I am everything Alara became. You took them, Devon, Harris. They wouldn't listen, but you do. You always listened." She moved closer. Her steps didn't make a sound. She didn't walk. She glided. "You remember what we wanted," she whispered. "To evolve, to leave the surface behind, to become part of something bigger. That wasn't what you were supposed to become. What I became was inevitable. You're killing people. No, I'm transforming them." I clenched my fists. "Lena's dying." Alara smiled. "Then give her to me. Let her breathe. Let her live." My hands trembled. "And me?" She stepped closer, inches away now. Her face, still hers, still Alara, still the woman I loved. Somewhere inside those impossible eyes. "You don't have to run anymore," she said. "You don't have to hurt. Stay." That one word shattered me, not because it was monstrous, but because it was honest, real, like it was coming from a place of love, twisted into something unrecognizable. She reached out her hand. It was beautiful, elegant, translucent like jellyfish skin, filled with veins of light and color. I took a step forward. My fingers brushed hers. It was warm, welcoming, and I felt everything. The trench, the depth, the silence, the peace. She showed me the world beneath the world, the creatures, the networks, the symphony of life we never hear because we're too far above. She showed me what she had become, what I could become. She wasn't a monster. She was an invitation. I almost said yes. I almost let go. But then I saw Lena, her face, her breath, her fragile, dying breath. I pulled my hand away. No. Alara didn't scream. She didn't lash out. She just looked sad. "You were the only one I wanted," she said. Then she turned, and the trench reacted. The chamber shook. The walls closed in. The oxygen began to vanish. Not leak, vanish. Sucked out by a force I couldn't explain. She was sealing the outpost, burying it, burying us. I ran, no time for tears, no time for apologies. I reached the sub, lifted Lena into the pilot seat, strapped her in, wired the remaining oxygen supply directly into her suit. Then I hit the emergency failsafe, the one they said would kill everyone on board. A thermal spike into the core, enough heat to rupture the outpost, to burn everything, even her, even me. I looked at Lena one last time. She was breathing, weak but steady. I pressed the launch. Her pod ejected, shot upward through the trench like a bullet. I watched the readout climb. 5,000 meters, 3,000, 1,000, surface, safe. Then I turned to face her. Alara, she hadn't moved, hadn't spoken. She just watched me. The fire began. The walls glowed red. Metal screamed. The chamber shook, and in the final second before the explosion, she reached out again. One last time. I took her hand, and we burned together. I shouldn't be alive. That's the first thing the medics said when they pulled me from the wreckage. I was floating in the Pacific, 100 miles from the launch site, half conscious, burned, suit torn open, pressure suit ruptured, no oxygen, no beacons. And yet, somehow I was breathing. They said the escape pod carrying Lena was found drifting hours earlier. She survived. They put her in a coma to stabilize her, but she made it. She told them I stayed behind. She told them I died with Ilara. And yet, I came back, but I'm not sure what part of me made it. I don't remember the ascent. I remember the fire, the heat, the moment the chamber exploded. I remember holding her hand. I remember her smile. And then, the black. A silence so deep it pressed into the shape of my thoughts. A pressure not on my body but on my mind, my soul. It didn't feel like death, it felt like translation, like I was being rewritten. And then I woke up to floodlights, voices, machines beeping, and something else, still with me, inside. They debriefed me for days. The company sent lawyers, executives, men in black coats with eyes like chalk. They wanted data, logs, coordinates, witness statements. I gave them nothing, because deep down I knew they didn't want answers. They wanted access. A week after I got out, I started hearing it again. At night, soft, faint, Ilara's voice, not in my head, not a hallucination, on the radio. My old shortwave receiver, long dead, unplugged, unwired, suddenly crackled to life one night at 3:17 a.m., and she said it again. Michael, just once, then static. I destroyed it, smashed the receiver, burned the casing, buried it in the sand. But the next night, the TV turned on. No input, just blue screen, and her voice. You came back. So can they. Lena's gone now. Disappeared from the hospital 3 nights ago. No record of discharge, no security footage. Just an empty bed and wet footprints leading down the hallway. They brought me in for questioning. I told them nothing, because I know where she went. The trench wasn't destroyed. The explosion, it didn't collapse it. It opened something, a door. And she's still waiting on the other side. Calling, not just to me, to others, to anyone who's ever felt the pull of the deep. Anyone who's ever stared into the ocean and heard it whisper back. I tried to fight it. I did. But last night I woke up with salt on my skin and water in my lungs, and a single thought echoing through my chest. You can breathe down here. There are other voices now, not just hers. The trench is speaking, it's growing, feeding, and soon it will reach the shore. They think the sea is quiet, that it's a void, an absence. But that's a lie. The sea remembers, and it calls, not in anger, not in hate, but in love. A terrible, bottomless love that wants to swallow you whole. So if you hear her voice, if you hear your name in the crashing of the waves, don't answer, don't look. And above all, don't go back, because she called me from the deep, and I answered. And now, she's not alone anymore.